What's going on, everybody? It is your host, Dr. Splash, and recently I debunked Rayner versus Simone the Digger, and I'm calling him Big Simon because this is America, motherfucker. But listen, a lot of people, they thought I was hating on Simon, or Simone, whatever you want to call it, Big Dig, right? They thought I was hating on the Big Dig. I wasn't. What happened was the presentation for the DC side, the regression of how they viewed the cosmology and how the different structures within DC works was very frustrating to see. And I merely spoke to the Kyle aspect and how they downplayed that and how, based on what they presented for Gurren Lagann, it doesn't stand a chance against the actual scaling of DC and the White Lanterns. Well, you people think I'm a cruel dictator, which in part I am, a little bit, I dabble, but I also am a man of reason, and I told you guys I don't like Kyle Rayner. So I investigated Gurren Lagann. I looked into the scaling. I even got a hold of the guidebook that was never even sold outside of Japan. And today, we are going to break down how Simone the Digger, Big Dig, could potentially bolo Kyle Rayner. I'm going to make it make sense to the comic book fans, okay? Because Death Battle didn't do a great job. So like this video if you love when I do content like this. Subscribe, join my Discord, all that. Getting back on topic. Let's talk about the verse itself, right? It's not a overly large project to look into, so if you guys want to go check this yourself, you definitely can. And I'm willing to post all my evidence in my public Discord server. But the universe itself is endlessly proliferating. And what I mean by that is we've had similar cases in Marvel, DC, in the Stephen King universe, where every cell, every atom within the universe is a universe in itself. And this is an endless, almost like the idea of infinite regression, but it's almost like infinite inversion. And it just endlessly goes on. A myriad of dimensions and universes. This is just one universe, right? So you have that bullshit argument for people themselves, like transcending universes containing infinite universe, all these things, right? And they contain the spiral power, which transcends dimensions. So that makes sense anyways. Every human has this. So you have just the universe itself being endlessly multiversal based on the light novel and everything else provided. So you go from there with just one universe, easily hyperversal, right? Infinitely transcending dimensions and universes all stacked on within one another. Yeah, you could get just one universe to like high hyper if you wanted to. But every human has an outerversal power within them. And then you look at what goes beyond that, right? And a lot of people try to say 11D, 12D. Well, in other instances throughout the story, we have them specifically referencing quantum theory and how quantum theory does in fact exist in the universe and does work, which bare minimum does make it 12D. However, when you go beyond that, they also have the instances, like I said, endlessly proliferating universes, but on top of this, there was beings of the 20th dimension, right? Like they could openly access a 20th dimension that they're clearly referencing in spatial terms. And so because of that, we have evidence that one universe, at least high hyper, bare minimum. Then you have endlessly proliferating multiverses where every Planck instant is a new universe. So you have all of this stacking up on top of each other. And then you have the anti-spiral, who with the guidebook, the final drill, in the works, it's stated, the anti-spiral can wipe out the spiral everywhere, as well as it's above creation. Creation, at least high hyper, right? But it's also stated to be unbound by time, fate, and dimensions, time and space, like all these things. And basically all the keywords you scalers want for outerversal, we can attribute that to anti-spiral, right? Well, why is this important? Because spiral goes from being within those dimensions we mentioned to transcending anti-spiral, to transcending the power of anti-spiral, just going simply beyond it. So in truth, this is a much more extreme case than what Death Battle presented. we have someone who bare minimum, anti-spiral, bare minimum with what I just gave you. If we're using the scaling that we apply to comic books, and we have to be fair and apply it everywhere, the same type of scaling. Easily the statements, feats, and the construction of the cosmology, it's anti-spiral, bare minimum to outerversal. But then Spiral, big dig, all right? Simon, Big Sims, pulls up. His power transcends that. It's above that. It's beyond that. So you can say low to mid, maybe even high outer. Maybe balanced in comparison because it has no limit in compared to something that's outerversal. So when you look at that, yeah, man, if we have Simon with outer to high outer transcendences and evolutionary hacks, and his cosmology, just one universe alone, easily argued to high hyper. If he's throwing around outer to mid outer, even high outer scaling pretty casually, and he can just transcend it with will, yes, at that point, his hacks, his evolutionary hacks, his cosmic evolution, this trait would indeed, in my opinion, allow him to pull up on Kyle Rayner. It helps that Kyle sucks as well. Now, Kyle is pretty damn strong, especially when considering the White Lantern, how they can use the life equation. But again, using the cosmological stacks provided by the guidebooks and some of the statements within the series, as well as what we have observed, the conclusion we can draw is, yeah, you can easily get Simone the Digger to outerversal with an outerversal evolutionary hack. And this should, you can make a strong case, be enough to wipe Kyle Rayner. Now, again, here's where the issue is, right? The way I presented it and how I actually presented the cosmology is way stronger and way more powerful and way more formidable than what Death Battle did. And that's important because DC fans, comic book fans, already have Kyle at a certain power level. And when you lowball Kyle, and then you show a low like 12D Simone, we're going to be like, hey, you had the low ball Kyle because Simone can't fuck with outer to high outer. But we can get him to do so. And in doing so, the argument for Simone makes a lot more sense to comic book fans. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this made sense. I hope this breakdown of how you can actually scale Gurren Lagann helps comic book fans understand just how broken that verse actually is when you consider all things. And I don't blame people for not understanding how strong it is because, again, some of the information is really hard to access. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Again, I don't hate Simone the Digger. I hate Kyle more than him. And I am fair when I represent things. I said in my video I wasn't that familiar with GL. Took my time to get familiar. And I think I made a pretty good presentation on why you could argue Simone actually would win. So let me know what you think in the comments, and you can hit up my Discord. But yeah, anyways, it's been your host, Dr. Splash. And remember, it's Yancey Street, which is